Hi everybody, I'm Chris, how you doing? I'm a musician and I'm here to talk about Bobby Gons, who's coming on stage right now. Bobby, come over. Thank you all so much for being here, especially with all the sadness and craziness in the world at the moment. It's very kind of you to show up for a man who's completely the opposite of sad and crazy. He's happy and sane, and I'm so happy to know you, Bobby, for what, 2 years, 2 and a bit? And I'm not the world's best interviewee, let alone interviewer, yes. But we're gonna try, okay? Why is everybody here? What are you up to? Are you okay, you want me to talk a bit more?
No,
okay.
I just definitely needed a deep breath. I know what I'm doing is pouring out my heart this past 2 years, 3 years of adjusting to freedom after a life sentence, being commuted by the governor. You know, those are those highlights of how I'm even here. However, more than anything, I'm continuing to just stand firm in what I found in one of the darkest places that I've experienced, which is a prison cell. Writing was my way of being able to not allow prison to dictate how I was gonna grow or love myself or see myself. And it was very difficult. But the cool part that I'm like experiencing right now too is that, you know, I imagine that there was so many people out there that would be listening to this person, not listening, but like willing to hear out this boy who was growing up in a prison cell. And they called me a lot of things for chasing that every day. I would sit at my desk and just write rhymes. That's what kept me sane, happy. But at the same time, being a lifer, that's also like not doing what you're supposed to do technically. You need to go into the law library. You need to learn this vocational. You need to, I needed to find me. I needed to learn why I grew up as hateful as I did, as separated from myself as I did, and why I believe that some place, location, or anything else outside of me can identify who I am internally, right? So that's really what we're here tonight for, as long-winded as I can be. We're here because I wrote something that helped me reconcile with the little boy I locked away, that then helped me find freedom beyond physical. I didn't think was possible. In fact, we all are not sure if it's possible. But I found freedom before I was actually free, and that was through being of service, helping others focus on songwriting. Why do we love music? What does it make us think of?
And that was my next question.
Yeah.
My next question was, talk to me and us about how music, which ultimately led to you being released, how it connected you in a place where it's hard to connect with other people, and some of the stuff you were telling us just 10 minutes ago.
For sure.
And some of the softness that it allowed to come into a very hard environment.
Yeah, definitely. My experience of spitting in a cipher on a yard and in a circle of individuals that, you know, we're coming with our hardest bars that we could conjure up, and who can top the others. And I'm showing up to the cipher talking about a song, and specifically I'm talking about a song called Just Being Me that I wrote way back in juvenile hall, and I'm trying to sing my way there and all that. But in other words, I was talking about how metal and concrete, if not careful, I will become it if that's all I'm trying to battle. And it was in the middle of, you know, the usual kind of, I ain't mad at the usual, but, you know, the money, cars, and clothes. And like I like to say, is like what was most effective, or what I love to hear was, you know, how you were hungry and sharing your heart and soul. And that allowed other individuals to find ways to just connect with what I was doing, wiggle away from their circle. You know, I would literally see people from across the yard try to figure a way out of where they were kicking it at or who they were kicking it with, just to make it over to the guy who did that one soft song. or whatever, and just was sending a compliment, sending that love, saying something as simple as, "Man, I really appreciated what you said on that," and then they would go back to the mask. Right? Let me put this back on because this is where it's safe. And I was learning through that was so rich with life in the middle of a place that felt like death was all around me. I think there's parallels to how we can feel out here in this free world, and I can go deeper on that, but for the most part, I just know that fear, death ran rampant, especially when they're telling me I'm gonna die in prison. And to soften up to the idea of owning why I was in prison by my own choice, owning being accountable for the choices and the resentments I held towards family, and being able to finally let that go through song, through that. Like, I didn't necessarily think that was how it was gonna happen, but it did. And it, more than anything, it connected me with myself. It connected me with friends that I met along the way. We were practically the Glee Club on a level 4 prison yard, if you can imagine that. It's violence and riots that can pop off at any time, but I'm like, yo, what's that? You hear that? There was sometimes alarms would be going off because some fight is happening, and you hear the alarm, and it's like, man. I'm like, hold up, there's something there, right? Like, I let myself be that rather than where I was physically, and it led me to a point where I was like, I'm still alive, I'm still on earth, I'm not gonna take this for granted.
Yeah. In a world where opportunity is very uneven across the whole place, my feeling is that you represent a great ray of hope, because so many kids may not have the money to have a guitar or a music teacher or a mentor who's going to teach them about how to be a pop star or whatever. You, from the very darkest place, have made your own opportunity. So what do you say to, or what do you think your role is rather, for young people particularly who might feel like, I haven't got any way of making this work?
Mm-hmm. I would say my only role in that is to get past that thought. Like, that's the only example. I like, my only experience is that I felt that thought too. I thought it, but I wanted to get past it. That's it. Like, it was a question mark of whether I could. Maybe I am just writing rhymes in my notebook that let me put it this way. I was okay with these notebooks and these rhymes that I was writing. They will forever be meaningful, because even if I died in prison and it was the only thing that they gave to my family as my property, my nieces, my nephews one day will look back at these, hopefully, right, in my imagination, and see this is something that their uncle or great uncle did while he was serving a life sentence. And that's meaningful. We know it as we reach certain times in our lives or in our age with family and things like that. Like, certain things we wouldn't have thought were meaningful, they are, and they will be cherished through family, even if it's just one. And I took that thought process to the point where, like, look, even if it is my creator who's looking and seeing that I'm at least being creative and showing a glimpse of how he is. So I'm like, I'm all right with that. And I've said it this way. I was okay with a crumb, and it became a cupcake. And I was like, oh, I'm all right with this cupcake. It's pretty delicious. And it became a cake. I'm just like, okay, something's going on. Yeah.
And what's your plan now, Bobby? Or rather, what's your dream? What do you hope will happen? And maybe some people here can help it happen. I hope so.
Yeah.
Including that Michael Jackson impersonator.
Yeah.
Who just said, ow!
My plan is to continue to learn how to love myself in this day and age, being the man that I am. And by that I just mean, like, learning how to let others love me, learning how to grasp the concept of forgiveness in my head, but actually remember it on a daily, and express it in ways that I might not know how to conjure up right now. But for the most part, creatively, my goal is to one day be, I don't know, the Rick Rubin who comes by the multiple studios that are all creative colonies, and I don't know, I'm like the dude who's rarely seen one day, but have been able to do something with what I love doing and then create a space where others love doing. And if I've done that through conversation inside prison, through mental health groups and self-help groups, and I've been able to connect with like country writers, R&B writers, gangster rappers, to hip hop, and enthusiasts to the T. It's just, I want that to grow, and even if it doesn't, I'd like it to grow within me. Even if all those characters I just described are just things that I'd like to see be done, even if it is just me. Because like I was in prison and I've come home, and all I want to do for the rest of my life is be congruent with making music and serving my community in any which way that I can, formerly incarcerated. However, at the same time, I'm making sure to keep in mind that I didn't come home to necessarily, there's that concept of if I could just save one. I've learned that my inner child is that one that I was meant to save, and I'm saving them every day by just letting myself smile, letting myself know that I do belong, right? That there is no concept of not belonging if I identify with love, connection, genuine connection. I don't, non-transactional, creative sovereignty, ownership. These things are important to everyone. I just know that I'm going to keep making music. I'm going to keep writing, whether I could see the people who like it or not.
How has it been? We've done some shows together. How has it been performing not inside a cell on your own, but in front of thousands of people? Has that been an adjustment? Has that been a dream come? How's it been?
Emotional. Yeah, like to see the faces of people enjoying something that I liked, I thought was cool, but then to see someone genuinely appreciate it that I also obviously have not met, that's a hell of a feeling to be seen, not validated, but to be seen, especially when those get the lyric or in that bounce with the beat, right, as you're live on stage, and I'm feeling the beat. I know how I'm feeling and can see my own arms, but to see them sync up with others in the crowd, that's intoxicating. And I'll make sure to also spend a lot of time in mountains and around a lot of trees, so that I can always just stay balanced in that.
Yeah, that's really hard. Did anyone see the video yet for Time and Space? Did you play that already? No, not yet.
No.
Okay, I got two more questions. I'm going to shut up. In your video for Time and Space, you took the brave decision to wear overalls.
Yes.
What made that choice seem viable? Because I've always never had the courage to do that.
The bravery. I understand what you're saying. It was a
brave
process.
decision, and you really pulled it off.
I appreciate that. No, that's what I'm talking about. It's being seen right there. The overalls were as I like to say to Lydia, they're a jump off the basic cliff, if you will. And I'm actually wearing the very overalls. Yeah. And it was about really allowing myself to be colorful and interact with my nephew, who is playing my inner child in the video. And him,
nephew's name?
Benny the Third.
Okay.
Benny the Third's his name. That's his handle on Instagram. He's a 6-year-old entrepreneur.
Yeah.
He sells Frenchies and organic coffee. It's his father, my brother, of course. But it's a beautiful thing. And the overalls were just simply like, let myself be back where I once wore overalls, and it wasn't a jump off the basic cliff. I was 16 kicking it with some older overalls and it was kind of normal. But then
Yeah.
it was Brave in 2022.
It's a wonderful video, and what did you say? It's called Dress Out. The
Yes.
first outfit you're wearing.
Yeah,
And
the other.
I thought it was really cool how you use clothes.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about clothes, but how you use them as part of the story. Like, this is where I was, this is where I am, this is where I'm going.
Yeah, and and when I'm in those overalls and in like the very colorful clothes that I'm wearing in that moment, it's to represent like somewhat of a modern me that might come home and get lost, right? Like, unfortunately, a lot of brothers and sisters that come home after doing some time, we don't know how to adjust. There's so many little things on the daily that, you know, I'll pick a number 8 at Subway, and if they don't got it though, and they're telling me I gotta pick from all these other options, yo, that's overwhelming. Like, it just really is. And then I could feel embarrassed or stupid or whatever, and I gotta learn how to be nice to myself in that moment. Remember to do it. But my point is that that's what the overalls, the colorfulness in that moment, wearing a San Jose hat that reminds me of Eazy-E wearing a Compton hat more than anything. And that's what I'm kind of like just really wanting to show homage to, is like, wearing this hat was almost like a crown in an idea of wanting to get lost and see myself as some king. But there's nothing more peaceful than taking that hat off or not needing a crown on and being amongst the people. And that's what that represented to me with the overalls, the orange hat. But then meeting my nephew in a moment where I'm wearing the same thing I wore in juvenile hall. That I felt very emotional putting back on, like, for the first time. People who, mentors of mine that have known me, seen me, met me as that little boy wearing those clothes, were emotional. But like I said in the video, it felt triumphant. It felt like being able to put those clothes back on with no pain, with no fear, bring new meaning, new memories to my old neighborhood, bring healing. Josue Rivas, that directed the video, we were on the same page, being able to just be present. And again, like, the concept was, let's bring new memories to this neighborhood. Let's bring new memories to these streets. Let's bring new memories. I'm right in front of my childhood home. Let's say a prayer. Let's pray for all the pain that has happened throughout this whole entire community. Not as if we can save the world, but just to acknowledge it. Maybe acknowledging it plays a part in healing it.
Hey, cool. Should we do the next bit? Because I've run out of confidence. But I want to say to you a few things. One, thank you for sharing so candidly, not just today, but every time we've met. And I really love you as a person. I'm also so relieved that I think your music is wonderful. And I just don't think there's anything that's going to stop you. I think that your songs are going to mean a lot to a lot of people. And so anything we can do to get, it's such a noisy world, but I feel like your songs will find a way. And thank you for sharing everything. Thank you all for sitting around and listening or texting, whatever you're doing. And now for the next bit, what is it, a firework display? What's coming up?
Yeah, hold on, you gotta do that.
What's next, Lydia?
So we're gonna have Bobby perform a few songs for you.
Oh, Bobby's gonna perform,
Yeah,
all right.
I'll be performing a few songs, and we'll play the video after. The sizzle, has it been shared already too? Okay, cool. All right.
All right, thank you everybody, thank you Bobby.
you.
All right.